It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
You know, my friends, I like to do exciting shows and shows that bring information and help people. And I got a flyer in the mail a while ago from the Clinical Outcomes Group known as COGI. This organization helps people with behavioral issues such as abuse, substance abuse, mental health, domestic violence, workplace wellness, and they have a veterans program they're doing. Okay, it's a program that I think is interesting, and I hope that when you see the program today, hope you don't need it, but if you did need some help, this would be the place to go. I'm going to be talking to Alicia Fleischut, who is the executive director. Well, thanks for inviting us to come down to your place.
Thank you for coming.
It's interesting, Alicia. There's so many people that need help, and sometimes they don't know where to turn. It's difficult in their lives, and first of all, it's a problem what they have, let alone trying to get better. Now, being around for 20 years and starting your drug and alcohol division here in 2010 when you came on board. First of all, tell our audience, am I saying it right, COGI?
Yes.
Okay. And it's actually, folks, it's a Clinical Outcomes Group Incorporated. We're abbreviating saying COGI. Tell us about the umbrella of this organization.
So the overall program that we do is our outpatient substance abuse treatment, which consists of clients coming in for group therapy and individual therapy. We do intensive outpatient, which is a more exaggerated version of outpatient, so they'll come into our office more hours, almost every day generally. We do medication-assisted treatment for clients that experience opioid dependency or alcoholism in the form of Suboxone and Vivitrol. We have a doctor that's here 3 days a week. He's a medical doctor. And we have a gynecologist that's here on a part-time basis to deal with pregnant females or postpartum females. We also run prevention programs in the school. We're in 8 of the 12 school districts here in our county where we do prevention work in elementary, middle school, and some high schools. We do abuse intervention services, so we work with batterers who either are caught up in the court system, have PFAs filed against them by their partner for domestic violence. We do anger management. So for individuals that might have got into an altercation, whether it be in the street, in some gathering, and they might have had some kind of arrest for assault, they would often get referred to our anger management program.
Let's assume a person is a substance abuse, all right, and they know they have a problem. Okay, what would be the procedure that they would go to get help? And how do you handle that? Because again, either you're embarrassed, you're down, your life's been miserable, the whole bit. It's very difficult to get a person to commit. How do you give that person that bump to realize that we can help them? Because you've had tremendous success with different people that have been, let's say, substance abuse.
Right. So people actually come to us through a variety of resources and referrals. Oftentimes they don't realize they have a problem until they're either arrested or something happens with their children, and referrals will come through Children and Youth Services or adult probation. Oftentimes the court systems will make those referrals. So at that point, they're pretty much made to come into treatment. However, there are some clients that realize, because their family's encouraging them to come into treatment. So all they would need to do is call our office, and at that time we do a screening to determine the level of urgency in terms of getting them in for the appointment. There are certain populations where we're required to get them in within 24 hours because there's medical complications that can come out of certain withdrawals, whether it be alcohol and oftentimes opiates, can cause significant medical issues for them. So once we do their screening, we set them up for an appointment, and then they come into our office for an assessment. And we get them into treatment at that point.
Okay, so confidentiality is extremely important here, okay?
Yes.
Okay, someone who is just wants to learn some information about what you do and they know they have a problem. I guess the area of, again, you cover so many areas here. Domestic violence, it's like the elderly. It's hard sometimes for the elderly who are being abused, okay, and you have domestic violence. Is most of your clients coming through referrals, or here again, you may have a spouse that is going through some difficult things with their spouse, whether it's the husband or the wife or a partner or whatever, and they're living in hell. How do you help them?
Oftentimes, once we get them into our office, like obviously that's the hardest part, is having someone take that first step to come into our office. Yeah. So during that initial phone call, our staff are trained to truly engage with that client and to empathize with that client. All of our staff, from the receptionist to the fiscal person to our counselors, our case management, they're all trained in trauma-informed care. So they know that the moment they have someone on the phone, like, you want to engage with them and make them feel that we have a safe environment for them so that they want to come here. Because once they get here, oftentimes we'll engage in community resources. So, we've worked very closely with Schuylkill Women in Crisis when it comes to women that are victims of domestic violence. Because oftentimes, you refer to the experts. So we'll partner with them to make sure that when a client presents here, they have a safe environment and they're not going back home into the violence. So when they're actually here in our office, we'll make phone calls for them, whether it be to the shelter, or if someone's, say, suicidal, we'll make phone calls to Schuylkill County's crisis number and have someone come out, so that we're working together with community resources. Because when we leave here at the end of the day, we need to make sure that someone is following them, like, later in the evening. Another program that we offer, which does help as well, is Schuylkill County's Warm Handoff program. So if, say, a person has difficulty after hours, they can go to a local emergency room, and that hospital will call the hotline phone number, and that will put them in touch with an actual person from our office.
Staying with the domestic violence.
Yes.
There are many, I think there's many people out there, spouses, whether female or male, that are being abused.
Yes.
All right? And it's very difficult, particularly for a spouse, a female or a male, because once they make that call, they feel, oh my God, if they find out, I'm going to really be in trouble. I better just live with this, the abuse and the whole bit, which is very sad, okay? And I'm sure you hear those stories all the time. It's that initial, how do you protect these people? Because they're living in this nightmare, and they want to try to help themselves, but they're afraid if it does get out, if he finds out I called, if she finds out I'm called, it's like a nightmare. How have you cleared some of those nightmares up for these people?
I think from a treatment perspective, since we run a program designed to help the spouse or the batterer, to hopefully change some of those behaviors so they're no longer becoming violent towards their spouse, although that's more of a long-term goal. So I think for us, it's encouraging that spouse who's being abused to get safety and to pursue, whether it be criminal charges or something, to force their partner's hand. Because the only way that environment will ever change is if they're getting help themselves and becoming safer, and then the spouse is getting help in order to learn to change those violent behaviors. We have had success within that program, and it has worked, but the key is getting them here, and the only way to get them here is if they can get to the shelter to become safe, and then pursue the criminal charges that force that, their hand to get into treatment. Because most often they won't come to treatment and get well unless someone's making them.
Yeah. Even though it's a difficult choice to make, you do have the ways to help them throughout the process.
Yes.
Okay.
And we also have case management that can do well visits, so we can go to them, make sure that they're doing okay.
All right, Alicia, before I go to break, okay, now you have some people, whether neighbors or family members, who know that either their neighbor is being abused, or their father is being abused, or mother being abused, or nieces or nephews or cousins, a family, okay? But the spouse who is being abused will not make any calls. And you know it's a situation that something terrible is going to happen. Do they take it on their own to say, look, I have to call you because my uncle, my aunt, my mother, my neighbor, I know she's being beaten, he's being beaten, or whatever. What's the legality there? I mean, how do you approach that? Have you ever gotten calls like that?
We have recently. And what we do, because obviously you can't put other people in danger either, is we just call the local municipality. So whatever police department would be in the jurisdiction of the home where the alleged abuse is occurring. And they will go out and do wellness checks. Oftentimes they've been there before.
Right.
So, but they'll still go, they'll go, and they'll encourage the spouse to go into the shelter. They'll encourage them to press charges. And then we encourage them to come into our office as well. So we kind of do both. We encourage them to come in because we can help them if they get here. And we also have the police go out and do a well visit for them, just to make sure that if there's any violence happening at that moment, they can do something about it.
Do you have any clients that have gone through the system and are doing extremely well because they made that first initial call and it was very difficult for them? Do you have any clients that are willing to say, listen, I went through that, talk to Sammy or talk to Mary or Jim, whatever, and they'll tell you what happened in their lives. And it's not like hearing it from, I was you, I went through this, okay? Do you have any people that are willing to talk with people who are going through this terrible nightmare?
Sure. I mean, we do have several clients. Actually, one of our staff members that we hired was a client of ours, and had gone through, inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, halfway house, recovery house, and I believe, I don't want to quote him, but I think he's sober, 5 years now. So, he's a living testament to someone who has come through our program and has been successful. But we have other clients too that I think
they're
would
willing
be,
to participate.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
Folks, I'm talking to Alicia Fleischut, who is the executive director of the Clinical Outcomes Group Incorporated. It's an organization here to help. My friends, life's really short these days. You don't know when it's going to happen, so you try to make the best of what you have. And if you're going through any difficulties, a phone call just to get some advice won't hurt. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Well, welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, ssptv.com. You'll watch all of our programs, particularly here in the Pottsville area. Comcast 190. Many years ago, we were on Channel 7. We're back on 190 from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. every day. And of course, my email is sam@ssptv.com. I'm here today at the Clinical Outcomes Group down here in the Pottsville. This organization has done great things and helped so many people. Alicia Fleischut, who is the executive director, is here today talking about some of the things, how we can help you. I hope you never need them, but if you do. Of course, we have this terrible problem in the country today that's been killing so many young people. Excuse me. And it's just sad. I know I have had Dr. Moylan on my show, and he's going to be coming on to do another report how many people died of overdose. And some people know that people are using even people are using, need help, okay? And I think your organization can certainly be a tremendous help in saving a lot of lives, okay? So either it's heroin or whatever they're taking these days, which is so sad. Your input on that.
One of the important things that we do is every person that walks in our office, especially if they're uncertain if they want to go into treatment, is offer everyone that's using opiates naloxone or Narcan, so that they have a safety net, or they have a resource should an overdose occur, with themselves or someone else. Oftentimes they're using with others. So, if an overdose occurs, the Narcan will at least be something that's a resource for them, especially if they're unsure that they want to go into treatment. But if someone enters our office and says that they want to get help because of an opioid addiction or any kind of substance abuse treatment addiction, we would immediately, meet with them, start asking some questions, and find out the appropriate level of care for them, whether that be a detox or an inpatient program or something at least on an outpatient basis to start with. We have opportunity to work with the local emergency rooms. So, if someone's experiencing difficulty, let's say after midnight, a lot of times people aren't around after midnight, but the emergency room is open.
Yeah.
So they'll call our warm handoff phone number, and then we'll have someone 24/7 that can help them get into treatment at midnight.
With the overdose program and the drug use, here again, those people who are using, all right, they're not stupid. They know their friends or people who have overdosed, and it's an addiction. And so that's not an easy thing. They're using right now. The point is, if they call you and say, look, I'm using, I shouldn't be on it to begin with, what do you tell them? Okay.
Well, we always praise them for, having enough courage to call.
Right.
And then we just talk to them a little bit about what they want. What happened that made you decide to call today? What are you looking for? And most often they know what they want. Most often they're either getting themselves into trouble, a family member is encouraging them to come into treatment. If they're on probation, they know that there's potentially some repercussions in terms of the consequence of using while on probation. So oftentimes when they're calling us in that state, they want help. So what we then try to do is encourage them to either, if they can come into our office, we encourage them to do so. Otherwise, we do things over the phone now because we have the ability to do some telehealth work. Otherwise, we want them to come into our office so we can physically assess, are they in danger of themselves, any kind of medical complication as a result of whatever they're using? Do they need to go to the emergency room? So then we work with getting them into the appropriate level of care by coordinating it with some community resource.
I can't stress enough to our viewers, for those people who are using drugs, you've seen what has happened and how many lives have been destroyed and people who are dying from overdose. And when you need that fix, you get it. If you are using, it's a good opportunity to call and just discuss what's going on, because they're not stupid. I mean, they know this could lead to terrible things. And that's where I'm so happy to have organizations like yours, Alicia, that can help people in those areas. Now, there's other areas that, you cover a lot of places, a lot of areas, which is fascinating. Workplace wellness, okay? What does that pertain to?
One of the biggest things that we do is we provide EAP sessions, so employee assistance program.
EAP?
Employee assistance programs.
Yeah.
So employers will contract with our counselors to provide a certain number of sessions. It's part of, like we have a contract with Schuylkill EMS here in town. Mm-hmm. So it's the emergency management system. Yeah. So they offer as a benefit to their employees that if they have any difficulty, especially that kind of job, If they want to come in to talk to someone, say they had a bad call, or there was a real bad accident and they're having some stress-related issues as a result of anything happening on the job, they then can come in for 3 free counseling sessions. So we offer that to other employers as well, that if there's anything happening on the job or something's interfering with someone's job performance, they contract with us to do a certain number of counseling sessions.
So here again, it's interesting. Now, we're going to take a break, but this veterans program that you're doing, my heart goes out to veterans, really, because some of them have been used and abused, and here you're coming out and you're doing this Vocal for Vets, this fundraising event. We'll talk about that, why it's so important, and we're living in a society today, thanks to the veterans, a free society. Hopefully it'll continue to be a free society, but you never know in life. And here again, I think your organization is going to be doing something great. I'm talking to Alicia Fleischut, folks. She's the Executive Director of the Clinical Operations Outcomes Group, here in Pottsville. Phone number has been on the screen. It's only a phone call to ask for help. It's so important to enjoy your lives better than just let it go down the tubes. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. We're here at the Clinical Outcomes Group in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Alicia Fleischut is the Executive Director, and if you just joined us, you definitely have to watch the show. You play it a zillion times. Comcast 190, 7 to 11 p.m. Of course, in the Service Electric Cablevision, Channel 13 and 513, and in the Wilkes-Barre area, Channel 92, Saturdays and Sundays, 7 to 11 p.m. Now, in addition to all the great things you're doing, you have this Vocal for Vets. Tell me about how this thing developed for the veterans, which I think is fantastic.
So we've always worked with veterans in a treatment capacity, so we offered the same services to them, but a more specialized track, kind of dealing with veterans-specific issues. But this past summer, when we first moved into our building, right out back is a picnic table offered by the church. And there was an individual that spent months sitting on this bench every day. So we were always outside. I'd go for walks with the dog. So slowly we just started talking to this man that sat there every day. And we found out he was a veteran who was homeless and had no paperwork that would help him get into a shelter or get appropriate help. And slowly he left our staff befriend him. He came in for lunch. We were able to put him in a hotel for a week in order to get him off the street and off that bench. We bought him clothes, just helped him get a job. He got permanent housing, and I just got a report on it. He's working full-time, has an apartment, and is doing really well. But we just wanted to help him because he was there, and it's just what we did, and he left us. So once he said okay, well, everyone just chipped in, and that's what we did.
Oh, that's great.
So that's kind of how we came up with this idea that there are a lot of homeless veterans that just don't fit into the box. They don't have the right paperwork, or they might have been discharged from the military or some type of service dishonorably because of maybe a substance abuse issue, so they might not find appropriate housing or help. So that's how our idea came.
I think it's fabulous. And this event is going to be held October 16th, 11 to 9 p.m. on the Schuylkill County Fairgrounds. So my friends, participate. Now, if you cannot participate, they do a lot of great things. They're certainly accepting donations, and this is an opportunity for you to really help the veterans. Alicia, I want to first of all congratulate your organization.
Thank you.
They've been around a long time, and I love to do shows like this to bring information to people, and everyone who works here, they're just to be applauded because it's a difficult task, and you're helping people every day, and I think that's great. Okay, and thanks for allowing us to come in. The organization is Clinical Outcomes Group, folks. If you have any concerns or problems, the phone number has been on the screen. Give them a call. We'll see you next time.